Hey gang, in this video we're going to be talking Castle Panic's latest expansion, Engines of War. Hey gang, Rick here from Let's Level Up, and as you just heard, today we're going to be talking about Castle Panic's third expansion, Engines of War. Now, there are a lot of really cool things in this game that make it super unique, and I definitely want to get into those. But first, I'd like to thank Justin DeWitt and Anne-Marie from Fireside Games for allowing me the opportunity to check that out. And I've had it for a couple months now. I've meant to get something sooner, just haven't had the time with everything that's been going on. Personal life has been crazy lately. So thank you for bearing with me. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff to talk about in this game. So let's head right to the table, and I'm going to show you what I really like and some of the new things about it. And then we'll be back here, and I'll give you my final thoughts. All right, we're here today to take a look at the latest expansion to Castle Panic, one of the coolest tower defense cooperative board games there is. One of the coolest cooperative board games it is. Castle Panic is excellent, I think, in any stretch of the terms. And chances are, if you're watching this video, you already know about the game, so I'm not going to get into too much of the base concepts of that. If you have never heard of Castle Panic before, do yourself a favor, stop watching this video, get in your car, head to Target or your local game store or any other place like that sells board games and pick it up and immediately start having fun with your family. This is or your game group. This is a really, really good, solid game. Now, Engines of War, I believe, is the third expansion. They've had the Wizard's Tower, the Dark Titan, and now this to that. I believe there's only 3 for that. There are a lot of other themes of Castle Panic, such as Dead Panic and Munchkin Panic and Star Trek Panic, but this is an enhancement directly to the based version of Castle Panic. It can be used in conjunction with any of the other expansions, but right now what I've been doing is just playing it just with the base model, and it is plenty difficult just with that. But if you really want to spice things up, add Dark Titan to it, because that can be very, very difficult. All right, so one of the biggest things here that you're going to notice right away if you're a longtime Castle Panic fan is that we now have a new person who is helping out our kingdom. The engineer has joined our ranks, and the engineer is going to be able to be tasked by the group of adventurers or the group of people who are protecting the castle to do a certain thing, such as constructing a ballista or a catapult to go atop the new centerpiece of our castle, the keep. This piece here is the wheel that's going to basically his order wheel, and it is double-sided, and he has unique sides on each, unique actions on each side, such as building a pit, a wall, a spring trap, or a barricade. So you notice their wall is there. One of the things that also is unique to Engines of War is that we have now a resource deck. All the brick and mortar cards have been removed from the Castle Panic deck, and now we have a new deck which we can draw from on our turn. So essentially, if we want to build one of these things, such as the ballista, we need to have 2 rope and 1 wood. So here is a wood card. Here is a rope card. A mortar, and there's another rope card. So as a group, or maybe even just one person, you will basically take these components and commit them to the engineer. Once all of the requirements have been met, you'll be able to pull the advancement, in this case a ballista, out of your token bank. Let's just grab the ballista really quick. And you're going to adorn it on top of the keep. Just like that. Now, the keep can be rotated, but it's going to point to one section at a time, and is going to be able to fire that within that section. So you can see, as long as the keep is standing, we'll be able to rotate it on our turn and then fire the ballista, or the catapult, and you can have one of each on there ready to go. And I really, again, as with typical Castle Panic, the artwork is pretty low-key, but it's just fantastic quality here. Really, really great stuff. I really love how that came out, and it fits nice and snug, so you don't have to worry about it getting bumped or anything like that off of the game table. One of the things that you're going to want to be able to make sure you do in Engines of War is balance your resource cards. If you run out of this deck, you'll actually lose a card permanently. It'll be gone from the game. And with only 4 types of each resources, bricks, mortar, rope, and wood, it is extremely, extremely important that you don't just go blowing through this whenever you can. However, I would advise getting a catapult or ballista, probably the catapult, out as soon as you can. If your keep ever goes away with one of each resource, you can rebuild it. but the keep does not count towards one of the remaining towers. So you can lose the game and still have the keep standing, and it's very unfortunate when that happens. The Engineer is a really, really cool new way to play Castle Panic, and just in his own right gives you a lot of tools to help the just endless onslaught that will be coming in the actual Engines of War. So let's take a look at some of those now. When you're getting things started and getting things set up in the game, you're going to set up a lot like normal in that you'll have 1 troll, 2 orcs, 3 goblins randomly spread throughout the archer's ring. But you're also going to take a stack of 6 orcs and just set them aside. Put them in your token bank because they're going to be used a little bit later, and I'll talk about that whenever you pull out an Engine of War. So let's talk about some of the new baddies that are in the game. And these aren't the Engines of War, they're just some of the new monster tokens. The first of which is going to be the Breathtaker. When the Breathtaker comes out, it is a 3-point monster, and what makes this guy unique, as long as it is on the board, players cannot trade with one another. So you're going to want to make sure you target this thing and get it out of the way quick. Next up, we have the Goblin Saboteur. Now, this guy is also very unique. When he hits one of your castle pieces, he's going to blow up and immediately take it out with you. And if that weren't bad enough, you also have to take and banish the top card of each deck. That includes the castle card and the resource pile. So if he hits something, he's going to blow it up and make sure it's going to be that much harder to repair things. Very, very bad. Especially, imagine having your barbarian destroyed. Because of this guy, and they get removed from the game. Awful, awful creature. Make sure he dies. And finally, we have a 2-point monster called the Shaman, and the Shaman's unique ability is that she is going to heal all monsters in her color for 1 point of damage every turn. So you want to make sure that that sustain doesn't happen and take her out. She's a unique creature, and she is nasty. There is a new effect as well called the Equalizer. You count the number of monsters on the board. If it's 5 or fewer, you add monsters until you get 6. There are 2 unique encampments in this game as well. Starting with the first, we're going to talk about the Barracks. When this thing gets drawn, it's going to go to the archer ring of 1 space, much like you would any other monster. The next monster and the first monster drawn, as long as this is out on the board, every turn will spawn in the barracks position. So it's a way to guarantee to get flooded down a single lane. Really, really nasty. And almost as nasty as the forward camp. The forward camp is going to be unique in that it will sit in between 2 zones. And basically anytime, in this case I put it on the 3 and the 4 zone, but anytime I were to roll a 3 or a 4, the monster would appear here in the archer zone rather than the 4. So that basically it'll make any monsters rolled in a certain color spawn 1 space closer to your castle. And now for the really fun things. There are new monster tiles in the game called siege engines. And let me just zoom here so you can see it. The first one we're going to talk about here is the siege tower. First off, whenever you draw one of these things, you're going to take 2 of the orcs that you set aside at the beginning of the game and place them underneath the siege engine. You see what we're doing here? This is a value of 3, 5, 7. We just put a 7-point monster out on the board in this. The siege engine has, in this case, the siege tower has a special ability. When this thing gets to the wall of a tower, rather than dealing damage to it, it lets out the 2 orcs that are underneath it, and they scale over the wall to wreak damage on the inside. You absolutely must take this thing out as quick as possible whenever you see it. You destroy the siege tower, the siege engine, both the orcs go into play right underneath it, and you're able to kill them as well. So you want to make sure you take out this guy before it gets to the wall, but specifically, you want to make sure you also plan to take out the 4 points of monsters you're about to unleash whenever that happens as well. It can get really, really nasty. All right, same thing here with the War Wagon. Now, the War Wagon is an armored transport for the orcs underneath it, and it's a 3-point armored unit. It does take damage whenever you hit walls and things with it. It can be affected by slings and spike traps and whatnot. But what's unique about this is before you move monsters, you roll a d6. 1 to 3, this thing moves counterclockwise. 4 to 6, it moves clockwise along the ring. So you never can tell where it's going to end up as you're playing the game. And finally, the last siege engine that we're going to be talking about is the Battering Ram. Now, the Battering Ram takes no damage when it's taking out castle structures, as that's what it's designed to do. So this thing can single-handedly obliterate all the kingdom if you let it get too close. So again, these are really, really nasty things, and you're going to have to really utilize the engineer to be able to make up the difference there. I'm planning on playing this game on stream sometime in the future, whenever we are new table and light setup get here. So keep an eye out for that, and I'll let you guys know a little bit on Twitter. You can follow us at Let's Level Up for more information there. All right, that is a basic overview of the new components to Siege of War. Follow me now back to the game room. I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on what this expansion brings to the Castle Panic universe, some of my frustrations in the games that I've narrowly lost at, and some of my tales of humility on the games that we absolutely had no chance in winning. All of which were an amazing time. Well, you can see I talked a lot about what the new things were in Engines of War, but I didn't really give you a lot of my opinion of those new things. Now, I really like the Wizard's Tower. I own the Wizard's Tower. I play it sometimes because when Dark Titan came out, I was so infatuated with that concept, and it was so difficult. I thought taking away the Wizard's Tower elements really made it difficult to play, and it was. And now Engines of War is here, and I've been playing it basically the base set of Castle Panic and just Engines of War to really learn the new things to the game, and I really, really love it. I love the resource system now. I like that brick and mortar out of the castle deck, and now I need to make a decision each time I play. Do I draw from the castle deck? Do I draw from the resource deck? Should we try to build this thing right now, or should I take care of the minions and everything that are on the board? So many decisions to make, and I think that one thing that just really makes this game stand out, and it always has, if you look at it, so much decisions. Now, I think people's most common complaint with Castle Panic is that it's a cooperative game. And in that, there's generally a couple players at the table who can kind of alpha things a bit. I wouldn't let that stop you from, one, owning Castle Panic, but for two, picking up Engines of War. It is very difficult. One person can't just think of things on their own, and you really have to get together and decide things as a group. And I think that's part of what makes the kingdom run at the end of the day. You're not just some solo piece on the board. You guys are all trying to take care of this kingdom, so you have to come through that. So anytime you hear that alpha gamer complaint, throw that counter argument at them and play Castle Panic, and maybe agree not to alpha. Let them make their own decisions. At the end of the day, let people have fun, and when you do that, you're going to have an excellent time playing Engines of War. Let's talk the engineer for a second. The engineer is a really, really cool new mechanic. We have to task him on this purpose, give him this quest to build things, and then supply him with the resources that he needs to get it done. If we don't do that, not only does he not get to build it, but we're constantly losing steam. As the game goes on, our resources are dwindling, so we're losing things. We hack it, and we can only assign him one task at a time as well, which makes things even harder to handle, right? We've got to make sure that we are tasking him appropriately for the problem that exists now, but for also the problems that are going to occur next turn. And if you've ever played Castle Panic, you know everything may be fine, and then all of a sudden the board is once again flooded with something disastrous. One of the things I really like is the ability to make the decision on switching his current task if we need to. So we only have done that a few times as we played the game, but sometimes it's essential. Sometimes we're working towards the catapult and we just can't draw the last thing, but a spring trap right now would be really good, and we happen to have those components. I mean, it's just one of those things that, man, you're losing a whole lot, but there may be an occasion where it pays off in the end, and in those times, it's really cool to make sure that you have all of your bases covered. All right, the new bad guys in the game. Those three new monsters and the new event that happens, I mean, all are really neat, but the big part of this game comes in with those siege engines. Once one of those drops, it's like a giant boss that's hurtling towards your castle, and you have to make sure you take it all out as fast as you can. There are 2 orcs underneath that thing, which are 4 more points of toughness that you're going to have to beat, and some of them move around the board, and especially with the encampments. If you had that forward camp out, and then you draw both the Battering Ram and the War Wagon in the same turn with a Siege Tower, I mean, forget about it. What are you going to do? Oh, wait, besides take what a catapult that you built a couple turns ago and blast them both for 3 damage. I mean, it's some of the things that you can really have a lot of very rewarding experiences. I think I tend to play things a little crazier generally than a lot of people. I tend to go a little too ham, so to speak. But I always have fun, and most of the time my game group has fun too, even if I cost them the game by making a bonehead decision. That's neither here nor there, though. This is one of those games that rewards those types of experience, I think, above a lot of others, right? If I, instead of drawing from the castle deck to deal with this monster, if I decide to go for that one resource to finish the catapult, maybe we can hurl this stone at him or a ballista and hit 3 things in a row. I mean, there's a lot of really cool things. The fact that you can maneuver that tower around as well, the keep around, really cool. Well, that is it basically for my thoughts. I think Engines of War is an excellent expansion. It may be my favorite expansion to Castle Panic to date. And I think with Engines of War, the base version of Castle Panic and Engines of War may be my favorite way to play Castle Panic to date. Before that, I really liked Dead Panic. I liked having my own figure on the board. Star Trek Panic was really good, and Munchkin Panic really great for my gaming group because we're such cutthroat jerks. But this is a way for us to bring it back to that co-op element, back to the original, and give it something, I think, a breath of life in that game. And it's rare, I think, when you purchase a board game that you really get to play it as much as you want. If you're a collector like myself, I've got hundreds of games, and if lucky, I'll get to play all those games once a year. Sometimes I buy a new game, I get to play it a couple times, and I don't get to play it for 6 or 7 months. So these types of expansions allow us to go back to those old games, give us a reason to go back to those old games. In an argument, when everyone brings their favorite game to the table, and I bring Castle Panic and I say, hey, let's play this thing, I just got this new expansion, it's awesome. I have a little bit more fuel for the fire there. So again, if you haven't already checked out Castle Panic, what are you waiting for? Stop viewing. Go get it. It's amazing. Pick up Engines of War while you're at it because it is also very good. And if I could recommend the other expansions, I'd say Dark Titan is a must-have, and Wizard's Tower is really, really good as well. I know a lot of people who love Wizard's Tower the most. So all in all, Engines of War brings a very, very cool element to Castle Panic and brings that sense of dread and keeps it up, just keeps going, right? Every turn you could be your last. And I think that's a really cool way to engage that user base. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please give us a thumbs up, share this video out to all of your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please follow Fireside Games on Twitter at Fireside Games, and follow me on Twitter at Let's Level Up. We'll be having more videos and Kickstarter previews in the weeks to come, so thank you so much for watching, and until next time, game on.